Hey, good morning. It's Thursday, April 1st. Thank you for being here for Everyday Thoughts. April 1st is a milestone day for our family because it was 11 years ago today, April 1st, 2010, that the neurologist called us. Ruth had been having some exams to try and figure out some issues she was having. The neurologist called us in and asked to meet with us as quickly as possible. So we went to the office, and there the doctor displayed an MRI image of her brain, which showed a very large and significant brain tumor. And he led this off with saying, "I have some bad news." And that began a series of events of us walking with God in ways that we'd never known before. And the one who led this walk was Ruth. Because as she processed this whole event and thought about it, she knew this is what God wanted. She knew she could trust him. She knew that this tumor was no accident. It was not a cruel joke. Personally, I've been saying for decades, God doesn't take coffee breaks. And now I had to find out, did I really believe that? Was God absent? And as I look back on the 3.5 years that she lived after that date, I can joyfully testify that God is faithful. And I saw this worked out in Ruth. Her faith never wavered. You see, she was consistent with what she always believed was important. So this was not a blip on the radar screen, but rather it was something that God brought about in his wisdom that we could not have anticipated or planned for, but it's what he wanted. So indeed, our world was upside down that day, but our faith was not, particularly Ruth's faith was not, because she was consistent with what she believed. I'm going to read you something that she wrote in 1992 about education, because if you wanted something that would identify Ruth's passion, it was education for her children. And in answering a couple of questions about whose responsibility is it to teach children, what should we teach them, where should it take place, she said this: "Yes, it is true that you can't expect perfection in this world. You must be content where God has placed you. At the same time, you must strive for perfection, for living God's way. Christians must believe that the Bible has real answers. When God commands us, he also gives us whatever is necessary and whatever is needed to obey. Only finding the right biblical answers to these questions can sweep away the confusion and reveal God's clear, basic principles for education." That pretty much identified what she was about in her perspective. And if we look at the state of education today, it is totally confused, totally unclear, because we have not swept away these misunderstandings that life is something other than what God wants it to be. She wrote a book, and again, in our plans, it would have been the first of many books, because there's just she had such an amazing ability to conceive and write and plan. But again, this is the passion for children. It resulted in a little book here called Get Wisdom. Let me read you a couple of lines here about what Ruth thought was important about wisdom. Apart from the gospel itself, nothing is more important than to get wisdom. It comes before education, friends, health, sports, work, and everything else you can think of. In fact, wisdom is the only good foundation for all these things. And then defining wisdom, what is Christian wisdom? Christian wisdom is knowing and understanding the truth, obeying the truth, and making decisions based on the truth. Wisdom helps you be more like Jesus in your actions, thoughts, and attitudes by loving God and loving your neighbor. Those things pretty much summed up Ruth. Those of you who know her know that to be true. Those of you that don't know her, this is a woman who was committed to the truth of God. One way that wisdom played out is knowing that God knows what he's about and trusting him. So Psalm 139, particularly in verse 16, was a passage that she clung to and therefore I clung to, where David is saying that before life began, all the days were planned for Ruth and written down in his book. There was nothing that she would have loved more than to be involved with grandchildren, but she didn't have that opportunity. But God didn't rob her of it. Rather, he planned something different for her. She didn't miss out on anything that God intended for her to miss out on. See, this is how we apply wisdom to life. Do I want it to play out? Do I want to be the script writer? Do I want it to go the way I want it to go? Or am I content to trust God even when it's hard? See, that's the example we see this week and Easter week. And yes, 11 years ago, April 1st, was also the Thursday before Easter, just like today. God was faithful then. He's being faithful now. And I pray that God would give me the courage to embrace wisdom the way that Ruth did. And that's the thought for this day. Lord bless you, and we'll see you tonight, Lord willing. Again, thanks for being here. Have a great day. Bye-bye.